Hypersonic weapons. I mean, you've heard the term everywhere, right? They're talked about as this unstoppable, revolutionary technology that's kicking off a whole new global arms race. But what's the real story behind all the headlines? Okay, so let's get right into it. You see images just like this one all the time. Sleek, futuristic missiles being shown off. And the story we're told is that they're these absolute game changers.
And that's pretty much the dominant narrative you hear from a lot of experts. The idea is that these things are going to completely rewrite the rule book on modern warfare.
But is that really the whole story? Are we just getting swept up in all the hype? Well, in this explainer, we're going to peel back all those layers of tech and strategy to see what's actually going on with hypersonic weapons.
All right, so first things first. To really get what this is all about, we have to ask a pretty basic question. What does hypersonic even mean? Well, on the surface, it just means really, really fast. But get this, traditional ICBMs, those long-range ballistic missiles, they've been hitting these kinds of speeds for decades. So speed by itself, that's not the new part of the story. No, the real game changer, the thing that makes these different, is combining that incredible speed with agility. Think about it, an ICBM flies in this big, predictable arc, like a giant cannonball. But a hypersonic weapon, it stays down in the atmosphere, and it can jink and weave. That means you have no idea where it's actually going until the very last second. And these things basically come in two main flavors. First, you've got your hypersonic glide vehicles, or HGVs. A rocket shoots them way up, and then they just glide down to their target, like a super fast, weaponized glider. Then there are the hypersonic cruise missiles, or HCMs. These guys have these wild scramjet engines that are air-breathing, so they stay powered up the whole way. So you can see why this idea, being super fast and unpredictable, has totally kicked off a new global arms race. I mean, the big players are dumping billions into this stuff. Russia and China, they want to make sure they can beat US missile defenses no matter what. The US, they're scrambling to catch up so they don't lose their tech edge. And it's not just them. A whole bunch of other countries are getting in on the action too. And this table really gets to the heart of the anxiety. You can see right there in that status column. The US has been working on this for ages, but Russia and China? They seem to have gotten operational weapons in the field first. We're talking about things like Russia's Avangard and China's DF-17. So yeah, that has created a huge sense of urgency in Washington. It's that fear of being left behind that's just dumping gasoline on this whole arms race fire. Okay, so you've got all this money, all this fear driving the race forward, which brings us to a really, really important question. Are these things actually unstoppable? This is where all that hype runs headfirst into the cold, hard laws of physics. When you boil it all down, this whole cat and mouse game of missile defense is pretty simple. To hit a target that's moving and dodging, your interceptor just has to be faster and more agile than it is. That's the rule. And check this out, because this graph shows a huge vulnerability. See how the glider's speed just plummets as it dives into the thicker atmosphere near the ground? It's like hitting a wall of air. And that slowdown, that creates a window of opportunity, those red boxes, where current interceptors might actually have a shot at taking it down. So to avoid getting shot down in that final phase, a glider has to start that dive going at a ridiculous speed. We're talking Mach 9 or more. And let me tell you, that is a massive, massive engineering headache. And the problems don't even stop there. Physics is a tough master. All that speed creates incredible friction, wrapping the weapon in a glowing bubble of plasma. That plasma can actually mess with its own navigation. And get this? It makes the weapon light up like a Christmas tree for heat-seeking sensors. So it's kind of betrayed by its own speed. You can actually see this compromise playing out in the US designs. They started with these radical high-performance wedge shapes that, well, didn't work so well. So what did they do? They fell back to a much more stable, simple cone shape, a design that's actually based on older, more reliable tech. It's a classic trade-off. You sacrifice some of that whiz-bang performance for something that you know will actually work. Okay, so we've cut through some of the hype, we've looked at the physics. What's the bottom line here? What's the real threat? Look, the reality is this. These weapons are not magic. Yes, the tech is impressive, but it's bound by the laws of physics just like everything else. They have real trade-offs between speed, range, and their ability to maneuver. They're not some unstoppable superweapon that people make them out to be. And that brings us to a really interesting point. Maybe the biggest danger isn't the weapon itself, but the race to build it. It's an arms race driven by fear, by hype,
and it's creating this toxic environment of uncertainty and mistrust.
So that leaves us with one last big question to think about. In this frantic race for the ultimate weapon, are we actually making ourselves less safe? Is the chase itself the real problem?